Welcome back to In Ohio Country Today, and joining me now is 4th District Congressman Jim Jordan. Jim, you're a frequent guest on our show, but you've certainly been making the rounds on a lot of the national programming. What's that like to be always in front of the camera?
Well,
we appreciate your time here in Ohio.
I mean, it is what it is. I didn't set out to try to get on national TV, but when you're in the middle of some of these big debates, big issues in Congress, this whole debt ceiling concern over the summer and cutting spending and actually putting in place what I would call a solution. I mean, versus just some Washington deal, a real solution to the problem. Our whole focus this summer was on trying to get a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. I'm just convinced, Dan, that there's no way we're going to ultimately solve this problem if we don't have that requirement, the same requirement every family, every small business, every township, every county, every municipality, every state. Everybody has to live within their means, except, oh, by the way, that one entity that has a $15 trillion debt, the federal government. So I'm just convinced now that I've been in Washington a few years that the political class won't do it on their own. They're going to have that requirement, and we got to get that passed through the House and Congress, sent out to the states for ratification.
You know, we did go through this past summer with the Congress leading the way. It was important to know that there were people out there that had solid ideas, business ideas that were going to carry this nation. One of the things that I've noticed in our program within Ohio Country Today and the other program that I produce, American Farming Country Today, is that agriculture seems to be leading the way. New technology, constant employment.
It's the bright spot.
And now one of the things that are coming up right now is the Farm Bill. And I know that everybody's going to want a piece of that pie when it comes to taxes and regulations. So how do you see the Farm Bill shaking out?
A couple things first. I think you're exactly right. Ag families get it. I mean, nothing like people who common sense and just good basic sense about how to run a business and how to run things. They get it. They understand the federal government is can't keep spending more than it takes in. So they get it, and as you point out, they're the bright spot in our economy right now. So what happens with this Farm Bill next year? I'm not sure. Does it just get renewed and pushed down to after the election? That could happen. Are we going to jump in there and tackle, the whole direct payment systems and the ethanol concern that's out there, but making sure there's also this safety net? So there's lots of questions, I think. And frankly, as you know, a big part of the Farm Bill is the whole food stamp program and all the nutrition programs and all the money that taxpayers put into those programs.
I don't think people really realize or grasp how much of that bill really goes into food stamps and not towards supporting and being that safety net for our farmers.
I would say it's, and I have to go back and check, but I believe it's upwards of 70% of the bill is non-agriculture related in kind of a direct way. So that's a big question too. So we'll see how it plays out. But some big concerns, big questions, and I would argue now is a time to really look to structure the farm programs in a much more market-oriented way. With the several good years now we've had in agriculture. Agriculture being the bright spot in our economy, now is the time to begin to move in that direction.
Yeah, I think that, again, with everything that's happening next year, I hate to see the Farm Bill get swept under the rug, if you will, from the standpoint of, again, we're looking at a huge election year, we're looking at a lot of politics, and how do we get away from all the politics that are being played across the board in D.C.? I
don't know that you can. I mean, look, you can go back to when Jefferson and Adams were and running for president, and all. You look at some of the things that were said and some of and how the campaigns were run. It's just been a part of American politics. We tend to think it's much more. We think it's much worse today because we can see it so quickly with YouTube and with the internet and with Twitters and texts and 24-hour news and cable news. We tend to think it's worse today, but in fact it's not. But elections have a way of deciding things, and they're important. And so we got a big election coming up in 13 months now that I think will have a huge impact on what kind of country we're going to be.
Jim, when we talk about elections, we can't get away from the elections that occurred in 2010, and especially some of the changes that took place right here in Ohio.
Yeah.
You're obviously a politician that actually came through the ranks. You spent time in Columbus. How do you see things playing out right now with the state of Ohio and its relationship with Washington? It seems like the governor and the state house is really taking the bull by the horns.
Oh yeah. I think,
and Ohio's on the right track.
I think so. They balance their budget without raising taxes is exactly what you need to do. They're doing it by reducing spending, achieving real savings for taxpayers. I think that both the governor, Speaker Batchelder, Senate President Niehaus, and their teams they put together are doing a good job, doing a very fine job. And they're starting to get Ohio back on the right track and creating an environment that's conducive for job growth. That's what you want. Low taxes, moderate regulation, not excessive regulation,
right.
An energy policy that makes sense, and a fiscal policy that makes sense as well. So you do those things, get out of the way and let entrepreneurs, let Americans do what they've been doing for 200 and some years, and that's making things happen.
And it looks like Ohio could be on the cutting edge as far as some of that new energy when we're talking about natural gas.
Yeah. Over in Marcellus and Utica State, over in the eastern part of the state, that is very exciting. Pennsylvania is already reaping tremendous job growth and benefits from that. We hope the same thing happens here in our state.
But our Ohio politicians aren't looking to you and Washington right now at this point and saying, what can you bring back to us?
Because they're smart, for goodness sake. Who wants to look to Washington for answers? I mean, look at the mess, the $15 trillion debt we've now built up. I mean, the last place you want to look is Washington. The first place you want to look is your family, your community, your friends, your neighbors, your church. That's where you look to actually make things happen and make a difference in people's lives and make a difference in communities. Not Washington, D.C. That's why we need Washington to get focused on what the Constitution tells us we should focus on. Strong military, strong national defense. That's where we're supposed to spend your tax dollars. And then get our fiscal house in order, quit spending more than we take in, and let more decisions, more opportunities, more things take place at the state and local level.
You know, Jim, one of the things that has always impressed me about your tenure here as congressman is the fact that you're always trying to get in touch and stay in touch with the people in your district. I know we're going through some district changes right now, and you're speaking here today in St. Mary's in front of the Rotary Club. There are a lot of things that are happening with that. One of the things that you do is your town hall meetings. What are some of the other things that you do to try to keep in touch with the general public?
Go back to the founders, the way they started this grand experiment in liberty we call America. They set up the Congress, and in particular the House of Representatives. They wanted that body to be the one closest to the people. That's why it's called a House of Representatives. I get the privilege of representing families and taxpayers and business owners and communities from across the 4th District in Ohio. And so they wanted us to talk. I mean, you go there and you represent them, and you look at the data and the information, and you sit in hearings, and you make decisions based on the information you get. But you don't forfeit, or excuse me, the voters don't forfeit their ability to impact the decisions I make. It's a balance, and so you're supposed to be out talking with constituents, talking with families and taxpayers and business owners. So we take that very seriously, and we're out and about at events like this today. We do town halls in person, and we do telephone town halls, which I know you've participated in, where we call folks and they get a chance to yell at their congressman and offer suggestions and questions. So we think that's important, and we're going to, if I get the privilege of being elected again and serving another term, we're going to make sure we continue to do that.
Absolutely. Amen. Well, one of the things I want to end with is something that I think a lot of liberal Democrats forget when they talk about politicians that they put on a pedestal. And John F. Kennedy once said that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. And how true is that? We have to stop, I think, looking to Washington to solve our problems and to just get out of the way. And let this, just get out of the way. And you said a couple really good things today when it came to discussing the tax code and regulation and energy and allowing our small business owners and large business owners, but in particularly our farmers, the opportunity to grow and to succeed.
President Kennedy understood what the founders understood. They talk about, we hold these truths to be self-evident. All are created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. So the founders understood your inherent rights aren't gifts from government, they're aren't grants from government, they're gifts from God. The other thing I think President Kennedy understood, and we're at one of these type of moments, I believe, in our country, is we all remember, we've seen footage of when the president, at his inaugural address, said it's not about what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Right.
And we're at one of those moments where I think shared sacrifice from all Americans, all 300 and some million Americans, to get this country back on the right path. So we will continue to be that, as Ronald Reagan said, that shining city on the hill that's an example for the whole world to see what a nation should be like.
And one of the things that you mentioned too today was, again, that's what America has to be. It's not just a beacon for its citizens, but a beacon for the world.
Yeah, yeah. You think about our country, the world's better when we lead with our values and our principles. Our military has always stood for freedom, and not just for Americans, but for countless number of people around the planet. The world is a better place when there's the United States of America in a strong, strong way.
Our guest today, 4th District Congressman Jim Jordan. Jim, once again, as always, thank you very much for your time.
Good to be with you.